Government Corruption and Overreach, project by Madeline, Nardos, and Brooke.
In conclusion, government corruption and overreach is a concerning. The impacts of government corruption and overreach affects the most vulnerable people in society. Widespread government corruption and overreach affects investments, weakens economic growth, increases poverty, and it lessens the effects of the rules that's set by the government. People must take a call to action to help solve some of these issues by working with the government. Another thing that's been used to help reduce government corruption. One thing that has been used to help reduce government corruption and overreach around the world. Governments could also cut off international loops such as trade. Government corruption and overreach cannot be put to an end by just one thing or one person, but as individuals, we can't do much ourselves, but we have the power to urge our government to use their power and resources to help prevent government corruption and overreach everywhere around the world and also in our own country.
Why not totalitarianism? Totalitarian governments restrict people's freedom of expression, which is a fundamental right. The government does not care for its people's feelings or concerns due to its overruling power. It does not matter what the people say or speak out about, because due to the overpowering nature of this type of government, they will ultimately be silenced. No personal freedom. Going along with personal freedom and expression, there would be no differing religions or cultures, since everyone is supposed to be the same when participating in a totalitarian government. There is very little room for freedom of expression or religion. The government does not allow for any sort of church, temple, synagogue, or anything related to a religion outside of what's acceptable. A dictator of all, the state would control personal choices such as where you live, what belief you follow, and what job you choose. These would all be controlled by a state and government under a totalitarian rule, and you would have essentially no choice in your own life. Copies of me. Minorities suffer and are disregarded in these societies as governments generally do not care for them. Totalitarian states do not allow for free and creative artistic types of expression, business, and or other things, and there's a lack of creativity in the society. Anything outside of the norm is frowned upon. Totalitarian rulers say and do as they please. The people in the society cannot say anything about what the ruler does or fight against it. Governmental corruption increases inequality and decreases popular accountability and political responsiveness. Because of this, it produces raising frustration and hardship among citizens. Judge, jury, and executioner. Usually, in these types of governments, there is no debate or choice among what is and isn't going to happen. Usually, governments like this are hyper aggressive and cause a lot of conflict outside of their country with conflicting countries in the hopes of gaining more control. And there's also a lot of internal conflict happening.
In conclusion, government corruption and overreach is seen through many countries today. In some countries, totalitarianism is an example of a form of government that's often made up of these qualities. There are advantages and disadvantages to this type of government, but it seems to be that the disadvantages outweighs the few good things to totalitarian governments. We should urge our governments to help fight and address government corruption and overreach, as it's important to help solve this evolving issue in many countries today.
It's pretty good in some ways if an important change needs to be made immediately in order to help a problem or concern. In places that have a democracy, this can't happen due to the fact that there are different political parties. Due to zero interventions in a totalitarian government, things are usually effective immediately. In conclusion, we can see how in some ways we can look at a totalitarian government and see how it at some point may have or is favorable on the surface. There are quite a few advantages to this form of government, which is why it can be seen as ideal in history. But there are also several disadvantages that could outweigh the advantages we have discussed. The government provides citizens with goods and services in this form of government, no matter the type of work each citizen does. No amount of work allows any person above another in this society, so everyone is truly equal. The citizens are all taken care of and provided with life necessities by the government, but they must work to be provided with those things. There's usually good stability and efficiency in this society and government due to no competing parties within the system. In a democracy like America's, Republicans and Democrats never totally agree on the economy. In a totalitarian government, though, everybody's for everybody else, so the economy is smooth and stable for that reason. Totalitarianism is a form of government that attempts to assert total control over the lives of its citizens. It is an ideal type of governing notion. Totalitarian governments do not tolerate parties of differing opinions. Everyone is to obey and follow the same idea of government, and the state holds absolute power. Powerful governments, such as a totalitarian government, needs to make a change or